You're listening to the Uptime Wind Energy Podcast, brought to you by BuildTurbines.com. Learn, train, and be a part of the clean energy revolution. Visit BuildTurbines.com today. Now here's your hosts, Alan Hall, Joel Saxum, Phil Totaro, and Rosemary Barnes.
Well, welcome to the Uptime Wind Energy Podcast. Rosemary Barnes is in Australia. Joel Saxum is in the great north of America, a land we call Wisconsin. And Phil Totaro is in lovely California. And as we've been talking off air before the show started, there's a lot of news this week. We are not going to get to all of it in this episode. There is no chance of that. But I wanted to start off first with what's happening off the coast of Connecticut with Revolution Wind and Ørsted and the stoppage there, and also the more recent news about U.S. Wind, which is a project off the coast of Maryland. And the administration a couple of days ago decided that they're going to pull the permits from U.S. Wind. And that has created quite a firestorm within the states, because if you think about Revolution Wind, that was going to power like 350,000 homes up in Connecticut and Rhode Island, and U.S. Wind, which was nearly as far down the line, was also going to power a great number of homes off the coast of Maryland. Now both of those have stopped, and as I pointed out in a recent Substack article and also on LinkedIn, and I think everybody has seen this, that pay attention to what the governors have done, because this is the same thing that happened to Empire Wind and Equinor a couple of months ago, where Empire Wind got shut down. The governor of New York went to the administration and said, hey, what gives? They negotiated an out, which is that New York was going to allow more gas capacity and gas lines into the state. That same thing I think is happening in Connecticut, and the governor of Connecticut has vowed to work with the administration to get Revolution back up and running. In fact, there was an interview today, we're recording on a Wednesday, where he was on television basically saying that there's the art of the deal still exists. You can't cancel a deal after the art of the deal has been signed, which that's a good point, right? But Connecticut is trying to negotiate this, and they have been talking to the state of New York. Maryland is taking a different approach, and Maryland's governor, Wes Moore, is saying, quote, canceling a project set to bring in $1 billion in investment, create thousands of good-paying jobs in manufacturing, and generate more Maryland-made electrical supply is utterly short-sighted. All right, so Maryland's taking a different approach and is sort of punching back hard instead of going to the negotiation table. Is there more to this than what we can see outwardly, or is there a lot more to it in terms of what the Trump administration is trying to do, or is this all about expanding the role of gas in Democrat-led states?
I think you're on it there, Alan. I think it's not even Democrat-led states, it's globally. Because it's the same rhetoric that the administration pushed to the EU. Hey, tariffs, or you're going to accept our LNG. And it was a part of the promises made on the campaign trails as well. And this is difficult for the Uptime podcast here, for me at least, because we try to stay away from political stuff on the show. We want to talk about innovation and technology and what's moving forward, but this is such a paramount issue within the industry right now. We have to talk about it. But I'm with you. Like, I think it's just furthering the hydrocarbon agenda there. Drill, baby, drill, these kind of things, except for it ignores some basic economic principles. It's difficult.
Is the U.S. drilling more now than it was 6 weeks ago, Joel?
I doubt it. You know what? As we read this, I don't know. Phil, let me get your opinion here. But as we read this, I'm going to look at the rig counts and see what they look like right now in the States.
Yeah, I would concur that this is mostly about wanting to promote gas. They're trying very hard to come up with these clever ways of hiding or obfuscating why they're really doing it. In that they're doing this under the guise of it being a national security concern, but that doesn't actually really exist. As I've pointed out, everybody involved, all the contractors involved, are either U.S., European, or one, Australian headquartered company. It's been suggested that maybe this is because of The Coast Guard has, some issues with being able to conduct their operations. That frankly doesn't, well, pardon the pun, I guess, but that doesn't hold water. It's also been suggested that this was potentially due to cybersecurity issues, which, even if that's true, the reality of that is that's an operational issue and has nothing to do with the construction of a project. This time, they're putting more of the onus on, BOEM and the Department of the Interior to say, oh, well, there's a national security concern. By the way, we can't tell you what it is, but it's very serious. So, it's just a way for them to avoid transparency and avoid accountability.
That same issue happened, Phil, with Equinor and Empire Wind. I think it was Politico or The Hill went after the order that shut down Empire Wind to see what the details were. And basically, they got a page of redacted text where they couldn't discern anything.
27 pages of redacted text.
What is the point of that? Like, if you're going to be so bold to do it, then just write down why you're doing it. And I don't know why they would redact it unless Equinor asks for it. I mean, there's two ways to have redaction happen. It's private information. It's commercial information. They don't want it out. Equinor could say, I don't want you to share that information. The other side is, the more nefarious of the two, is the federal government is unwilling to tell you why they shut the project off, which is not what is supposed to happen. There's supposed to be a little bit of visibility of why they're making the decisions, or not so much why they made a decision, that what went into the decision. Like, what were the pieces of information that let them make the final decision to shut off Empire Wind for a couple of weeks?
And think about it this way as well. If we don't have, I mean, regardless of anybody's personal politics or, a dislike for a particular form of technology or power generation, the reality is the government of the day has to be able to provide citizens and corporations that operate in that country with guarantees. This is why I got so fired up about the whole Empire Wind thing in the first place, was because these guys have spent billions of dollars on leases that they now are being precluded from being able to go build. Nobody's offered to give them their money back on the lease. They're just saying, oh, well, that permit that you got issued that we spent either 7 years or 10 years, however many years it was, and however many, compromises had to be made and how many decisions had to be taken. At the end of the day, the government has to be able to provide people with certainty. And if you don't do that, then we don't have a functioning government anymore. And that's scary, because then the government's out for its own interests and not the interests of the people. And who is going to end up paying the price for all this? Us as electricity consumers. We're going to now end up in a scenario where you're going to get brownouts and rolling blackouts, and within a few years, maybe they negotiate these deals to do gas offtake or whatever, and Connecticut's got to put up with that, and Maryland's got to put up with that, but they need power, and there's power literally right there. The project Revolution was 80% complete, according to Ørsted. The power's right there. Just take it.
And they need it now. They don't need it 5-6 years down the line when we are finally able to get some thermal generation plants built and some transmission built up. They need it now. And that's there. So, like, even Alan, like you say, or like you asked, what's the rig count? What does it look like for production? Okay, production right now, to be honest with you, doesn't matter that much. Where are you going to send it? Like, when you're talking about LNG, you talk about, Alan, you and I read this report the other day about they measure it in billions of cubic feet. Is how this is how much we used in power generation in the United States. So right now, if we look at the LNG rig count in the States, it's sitting at 122 as of a couple days ago. 122 rigs drilling gas wells. And it was 103 at inauguration. So you're up 19 rigs. Big drop in oil rigs and a small spike in gas rigs in the field. But at the end of the day, where are you going to send all this production?
Well, you're going to send it to Europe, right? That was the agreement between the European Union and the administration, was just to send a bunch of gas over there, or forget you're to commit to buying $750 billion worth of LNG and other energy products over 3 years, $250 billion a year. That's where they hope to send it. But you go back to, can they even burn it? They can't. There's no way they could burn it tomorrow. So the whole equation doesn't equate. The left-hand side and the right-hand side don't match. Don't let blade damage catch you off guard. Eelogic's ping sensors detect issues before they become expensive, time-consuming problems. From ice buildup and lightning strikes to pitch misalignment and internal blade cracks, Eelogic's ping has you covered. Their cutting-edge sensors are easy to install, giving you the power to stop damage before it's too late. Visit eelogix-ping.com and take control of your turbine's health today.
What's the Australian perspective here? Like, how are people around the world perceiving this scenario?
Yeah, it's actually interesting because, obviously I pay a lot of attention to what's going on in wind energy and the US specifically because, you guys and other podcasts I listen to. But even in conversations that I'm having with people who don't work in wind or even don't work in energy, they're aware of what's happened and just a bit shocked, I think. I talked to a couple of business owners and they're just imagining what would happen if my business, was halfway through a huge project and then it just got cancelled for maybe non-transparent reasons, or at least something that you could never have predicted. And it would obviously kill any of small or medium-sized businesses that had something like this happen to them. So it just feels a bit chilling and makes you just think how you can think that you've done everything right, but nothing is certain in business. Black swan can always come at you.
You know who's on your side, Phil, about getting reimbursed for these projects if they get canceled is the Secretary of the Interior, Doug Burgum, because he was screaming bloody murder when the XL pipeline was canceled in North Dakota when he was governor. He said that if there's an executive order or legislation that kills a project where you've already invested hundreds of millions of dollars, then they need to reimburse you for that project when they do that. And now he's on the opposite. He actually has the ability to do that, and he is sticking it to wind and solar and everybody else. And it's like, oh, you put a bunch of money in, well, tough luck.
But did that happen for Keystone? What was the eventual outcome of that? They did get reimbursed or not?
No.
The government never gives money back when has that ever happened in the history of the universe. But here's the real scary thing. And this is actually why, I'm saying, like, who's going to reimburse them? Nobody's going to do that. But I don't want them to get reimbursed, because here's what happens if they do. Right now, these guys, even though they're not being allowed to construct, they still own leases. If the Interior Department pulls back those leases and gives the money back, they can release that to oil and gas companies, even if they don't go do anything. And then those sites that were intended for wind are no longer available. They can sign a 99-year lease and then we're screwed. And that was actually my big concern with them terminating all the other lease auctions, the ones in Maine, Oregon, Washington, North, South Carolina, et cetera, the Gulf. That's the real issue here is if they decide, oh, well, we're not going to allocate those areas for offshore wind, we're going to give leases to, for a dollar an acre or whatever to oil and gas companies out there. That's going to screw the industry even more because we're never going to be able to build anything.
Has anybody checked in with any of the companies that are off the coast over by you, Phil? Oh, you're right, because there's 4 or 5 lease zones off the West Coast. Now, we knew those are going to be long-term developments, floating and all this stuff. But what's going on at the boardrooms of those companies? Do we know anybody that's a fly on the wall there? Because it would be interesting to see what they're doing. Are they fire selling employees? Because they're like, what are we going to do here? Like, are we just going to sit and burn money?
No, all those projects, especially the ones out here in California, they were all long-term prospects anyway. We were not even going to start construction during the rest of the president's term. So it wasn't really going to be that much of an issue to not get issued a federal permit. We've got state level permitting that needs to happen for the transmission infrastructure. That hasn't even started really yet. They're still having studies and conversations about it. So the project development companies, there's really only one that got kind of screwed by this, and it was a small company that was doing a floating demonstration project off the coast of Vandenberg, where they are sending up all these Elon missiles or whatever. That project was supposed to have started construction in a couple of years and hook into the electrical infrastructure in Lompoc, where the Baywa project is, a wind farm, Strauss wind farm. That is unlikely to move forward, but that was being done under kind of a special permit anyway. It wasn't actually in federal waters; it was state. But they were also still dependent on different approvals, given the proximity to the space base.
At the same time that these offshore wind projects that are, it's like that book, Rosemary the Guy, How Big Things Get Done, these mega capital projects, right? The other one that was not under construction yet, but had gone through 10, 15 years of permitting and is a massive blow to, I'm not even saying renewable energy, it's a massive blow to the energy grid in the United States, is the Grain Belt Express that just got all the federal funding pulled from it. It was big time. That federal loan was like a $4.5 billion guarantee or something like that.
Right.
Why? What is the point of that?
They're going to move forward with private funding, but they're also, I believe, Invenergy is still contemplating a legal challenge to that, because once and this is actually was according to the guy who's heading the DOE's loan office, once the DOE issues that loan guarantee, they can't pull it back. They're not supposed to be allowed to be able to pull it back. So that's going to probably end up in litigation. But the problem, this is the real thing, and I was even being interviewed by somebody and they were asking, well, what do the states do? What kind of leverage do they have? And the reality is they can, make all these legal challenges and then negotiate gas deals and all that other crap. But even if they proceed with a legal challenge, nothing's getting built right now. Nothing's getting done at a point in time when we need the power. And even if the state wins, they're going to win the legal battle like 2 or 3 years from now when it doesn't matter anymore anyway. A new administration's going to come in. Presumably, whatever administration comes in, Republican or Democrat, they're going to be more favorable than this administration regardless. Because by that point in time, they're going to see the picture that, gas and nuclear and whatever else isn't getting the job done. You need renewables. So we're going to have to, soften the deal a little bit.
Well, we're legislating ourselves into an energy hole, right? And it doesn't make sense. And go backwards and just cancel off the idea that it's renewables or traditional power gen. It's energy generation sources and energy generation, the ability to move electrons across the grid. And we're just cutting the lines and just like, no, we don't need that. We don't need that. As looking and going like, at the same breath, we're going to be an AI and data center powerhouse. And we're going to do, this is going to be the new thing. And it's like, you need power for all that. Why?
You have two things going on simultaneously, Joel. You have the demand for power from AI data centers. And then on top of it, you have wider fluctuations in energy usage. So base load is the opposite of what you want there. You can't sustain it, right? So if you put more coal generation, more gas generation on the grid, and Elon or Zuckerberg decides to turn on and off their AI data center, it's going to cause massive problems the way the grid is established today. You have to install battery, and a lot of it, to support those kind of loads. And going back to your earlier point, if no administration is willing to do that, then there will obviously be problems on the grid. And when the average consumer has a brownout or blackout and multiples of them, they will lose elections. It will be over very quickly because it doesn't take long.
Not for nothing. How do you think Arnold Schwarzenegger became governor of California? That's literally what happened. Under Gray Davis, we had brownouts and blackouts, and people got so upset about it, they literally did a recall election, got the existing governor out, and Arnie got in.
Kindergarten Cop.
The Terminator.
Kindergarten Cop. Out of every movie that he's ever been in, that's the one you're gonna.
Yeah, I just watched it the other day.
Are you worried about unexpected blade root failures and the high cost of repairs? Meet EcoPitch by Onyx Insight, the standard in blade root monitoring. Onyx's state-of-the-art sensor tracks blade root movement in real time, delivering continuous data to keep your wind farm running smoothly and efficiently. With EcoPitch, you can catch problems early, saving hundreds of thousands of dollars. Field tested on over 3,000 blades, it's proven reliability at your fingertips. Choose EcoPitch for peace of mind. Contact Onyx Insight today to schedule your demo of EcoPitch and experience the future of blade monitoring. So there's an old saying in Washington, when you want to kill something, you just don't shoot it once, you got to shoot it multiple times. And this week, the Trump administration proved that by launching a coordinated two-front assault on America's wind energy industry by combining national security fears with protectionist trade policies. So it started about a week or two ago with the Commerce Department, which initiated Section 232 investigation, Phil, which means like there's national security risks involved in wind. And I don't know who was after us, but somehow they're controlling the wind turbines with their minds. And that was the first thing. So Section 232, they can impose a lot of restraints on particular items that are coming into the United States. And the second one was the Commerce Department published a list making 407 categories of imported products 50% more expensive with a tariff. And in that list is raw steel and raw aluminum, which a lot of wind turbines have, those two materials. There was a big push by some of the steel producers and aluminum producers in the United States for those tariffs to be applied, and they won. All right. So now you have a Section 232 investigation, national security, and you have tariffs on the raw materials that pretty much make up a good bit of wind turbines. Where do we go from here? Because to me, we've had the Department of Interior attacking wind, Department of Commerce attacking wind, Department of Transportation attacking wind with the trains, crashing trains bit. So pretty much every department wants to chime in and show that they are anti-wind so they can be on, I don't know, some news channel, I suppose. But is this smart? Is this because in my head, when one administration does this, the next administration boomerangs it back even harder. And if one thing we've learned over the last 20 plus years in politics is that the other side must outdo the previous administration. This is not going to go well.
It's a pendulum, and the pendulum is getting more and more power, and it's going a little further and further and further. We need that pendulum to settle down. But it shows that it paints the picture of the political world in the United States, where it used to be, it used to be 15% extreme on either side, 15% extreme on either side, and 70% where you could have a conversation in the middle. Now it's like 20% that you can have a conversation in the middle, and 40% on either side that are so extreme you can't get anything done or have a conversation.
But also, Joel, don't you think because of the population in the United States has grown significantly over the last 100 years, it gets harder to make the pendulum move? So even if you're the federal government, if you want to really try to take out something, you have to work hard at it because there's so many people and so much activity economically in the United States. It's hard to move the needle. So they have to take extreme measures to try to move the needle.
I don't think it's as much. This is a very broad topic, but I don't think it's as much population growth. I think it's the last 20 years in access to communications and access to information. I think we're in such a different place now with social media and the availability of, not even social media, cancel social media, that's a huge thing, but like how I can easily get news on my phone, just boom, 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 just fed into me.
Yeah, how is TikTok still alive?
Yeah, but I got a little thing in my corner of my computer that pops up and tells me news. I got a thing on my phone that pops up and tells me news. I got the TV pop up and tell me news. There's so much access to information that it's everybody's starting to develop opinions, and then it's like, oh, it feeds this algorithm. So if you have an opinion, you start clicking on things, it starts to drive you further down that path and further down that line. So people become a bit more extreme than they were in the past. Whereas you didn't have algorithm-based news input before, and it was just like what was on the TV. It was the ABC or whatever the hell, Fox News, whatever it was, just on the TV at 6 p.m. or 9 p.m. So you have the way our society, and this is a dig a little bit, but the way our society is moving towards this capitalistic way of wanting to make money. Why are algorithms there in social media and news? Well, they're there to drive people to ads. They're here to make money and do things. So capitalism is poisoning itself in some of these things, and why the pendulum's swinging so far.
I saw the same thing in Australia, honestly.
Yeah, it's the same thing globally.
But to go back to the whole tariff question, the reality of this is that it drives up cost. And what people don't seem to understand about tariffs, a lot of people think, oh, we're applying tariffs on some foreign country or foreign company. We pay the tariffs, people. We pay them. Because even if we're applying a tariff on a foreign company or country, they raise their price by the amount of the tariff because they can't just absorb that cost. And even when the administration and the White House was trying to tell companies like Walmart, oh, you're going to eat the cost of that tariff. No, they're not. Apple's not going to eat the cost of that tariff. Walmart's not going to eat the cost of tariffs. The prices are going to go up. We're going to pay for it. And that means that tariffs end up being a tax. So my supposedly fiscally conservative government is now suggesting that I pay even more than what I already do to, ensure that they can, continue to demolish the industry that I make money off of. I mean, this is not good times.
If they weren't $37 trillion in debt, this may not be happening. This is the rationale behind all of it, is that, well, the U.S. is in huge federal debt, so we're going to make some money. And if you've watched the discussion over the last couple of days about how much money the tariffs are going to bring in 2025, the number bantied about is like $1 trillion. Yeah, okay, let's say it's $1 trillion. What is the effect on the economy? Back to Phil's point, you take $1 trillion and put it into the federal government that it didn't have before. Does that make everybody better off? Good question. We're going to find, what's going to happen? We're going to find out. We have no idea what's going to happen because we haven't been down this road before. Not like this.
Here is a positive thing. So while all this is happening, there are people that have been proactive, and we've spoken a little bit about it on the show in the past few months, that have safe harbored turbines, or they've already got, projects under development and repowering projects that they're already working on. There's going to be at least a short-term boom here where, even though it's kind of hysterical to me because for the last 9 quarters in a row, wind and solar have actually combined in net capacity additions that outpace, natural gas or coal or anything else. And that's going to actually continue for the next year and a half. And everybody's going to sit there and scratch their heads because they don't understand how the momentum of all these, the project development process works. And, so a year from now, we're going to be having the conversation where, wind and solar are still number one in capacity additions, for the second quarter of 2026. And everybody's going to be like, didn't we kill wind and solar? What happened? And they're not going to get it. So the reality is we've got at least a something positive to look forward to where repowering is going to still happen. Some, greenfield project development still happening. People who are proactive to take advantage of safe harbors under the old IRS rules are going to still be able to build. PPA prices are going up, which actually helps companies offset the lost production tax credit revenue, and that, with a high enough PPA that they could renegotiate, they may be able to afford to repower even without the production tax credit. So there is some hope and some optimism, and let's see how this goes.
It's going to be a fight. Bring it. It's better that we fight it out now, because it's could be the last hurrah for LNG for a while, and coal. I mean, this would be the death blow to coal. Really will be in the U.S., not elsewhere, but in the U.S. it will be.
And talking about Joel's pendulum concept, it's like, what if it's Democrats that go into a majority in Congress in 2029 and or come into the White House in 2029, the pendulum's going to swing pretty hard in the opposite direction of where we are right now. And a lot of these, tariffs are going to go away. These mandates to buy LNG are going to go away before they've even had a chance to really gain enough momentum. And we're still going to be at a point where wind and solar are cheaper than anything else to build, as they already are today, and they have been for the last 8 years. So let's get on with it.
That wraps up another episode of the Uptime Wind Energy Podcast. Thanks for joining us as we explore the latest in wind energy technology and industry insights and nonsense politics. If today's discussion sparked any questions or ideas, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us on LinkedIn. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you found value in today's conversation, please leave us a review. It really helps other wind energy professionals discover the show. And we'll catch you here next week on the Uptime Wind Energy Podcast.